And thank you to Haugesund for this panel and for putting on rain. I never thought I'd be nostalgic about rain. I haven't seen it for months. It's a horrible thing now, actually. My feet are soaking, but it's lovely to see it again. This panel, and I'll introduce the diverse group we have here, just in what they do as well as who they are. We're talking, I think, about changing realities, and we've all been hearing that for the last couple of years. You'll notice we haven't used the word COVID up there, post-COVID or any of those things, because we're talking about, I think, a reality which is being shaped by lots of things. There is COVID, but there was already a lot of change in the way that consumers were behaving before COVID. We now have some additional joys with a cost of living crisis, Ukraine war, and all of these things, I think, are one by one are going to influence what is the core business that we have, which is connecting culture to real human beings in all their diversity. And that challenge has arguably got greater in every industry. The big have got bigger and have got smarter at getting bigger, if we think of the platforms, but we also think about those enormous titles and franchises that are endlessly being marketed at us. We could have this same discussion if we were in music. We could have the same discussion if we were in publishing right now. Theatre, certainly, it's getting more difficult. We believe that culture is about diversity, and it's about new voices, and it's about risk. And it's about those exciting things that we want European culture to do, that dynamism, but it's getting tougher and tougher. And the people that have to make that happen, I think, are represented in this panel. I will particularly point towards distribution, as Europa Distribution are behind this panel. I think quite often people don't understand the role of distribution, but distribution is the connection between, it's where content and culture have to make that first meeting with audiences. They have to think about the realities that they live in, and it is them in roles as publisher, as marketer, and as the distribution that have to find those mechanisms to make those titles work in this loud and ever louder environment that we're now working in. And I think what we're going to talk about here is we'll hear different perspectives on the changes, and we'll hear that change, I think, is fluid. Things are changing all of the time. There's some things which we know are happening, and there's some things that I think we will discover are realities that are quite tough. I think the one thing we can say is that change is going to be constant for the next few years, and that we're going to have to find different strategic approaches to do them. So there's nothing fixed, I think, here, other than you have to find strategies and keep to make that core business of how do we connect great, diverse content to audiences. And there could be a whole lot of new things. So just before I came out, I was thinking about this, and the Daily Mail, that fine paper of record, has got a story saying there's a 1 in 6 chance of a level 7 volcanic eruption next year, which would pretty much wipe out half of humanity, which in a way deals with the overproduction issue, but again, it makes connecting with audiences more challenging when it's that dark. So anyway, this is just a reflection, which we probably won't go into. So what we have here is a director. We have Ida Haug Johansen, who has the Vegas Cinema in Oslo, which is relatively new, and I think she will describe it to you, Vegas scene, I should say. But it's one of those cinemas that I think is really trying to find new ways to build those connections, and with the architecture and the place, I think, has moved on. Tonja, I think, Hardison, I think you probably all know. She's obviously, this is your festival, so we are saying thank you to you at the same time. Tobias Åkesson from Göteborg. Is that how you should say Gothenburg? Göteborg.
But it's called Gothenburg in English.
Can I call it Gothenburg just for the purpose of this? That's fine. We have Johanna Mayer of Majeure, so these are our distributors here. Johanna, as we come on, is actually part of the special operations group of Majeure. I don't know what that means, but apparently she would have to kill you if she told me. And then we have Anastasia Plazzotta of Wanted Cinema, in Italy, and I think Dagas Bjornsson, you're probably relatively aware of from the Norwegian Film Institute. Okay, so we're going to start with Tonje, which, as this is your house, not exactly your house, but near your house. So when we talk about this change, in some senses, this is, as we've been hearing, this has been a hugely successful festival here. So there's a lot that seems to be going right in this atmosphere. But I wonder if you recognise that feeling of change, and whether you feel that you've had to respond in ways that are that you could perhaps describe to us.
Yeah, it's going surprisingly well, I would say, because we were prepared for not reaching the level of 2019 as we did, due to, well, not call it COVID or whatever, but we were lucky enough to have festivals each year, and I think that was almost like a locomotive in marketing for us, that people knew we were there, and it was those who went were super happy to be able to do something, because every time it got worse, so you need to be present for us to don't miss it, because it will be 2-3 months of no fun after Haugesund. So I'm not sure if that's the kind of gloom which is going, that is almost like this, they're playing on Titanic and you're preparing for World War, but no, it's going really well. And I think that we have pretty much just the same as we do each year. We try to focus on the audience that we have. I'm not going to talk about the audience part of the festival now, since this is about the audience. That you have to program for the audience that you have, not the audience you want to have or wish you had. And then you build upon that audience. You try to broaden that circle of dedicated festival friends that you know about. And then at the same time trying to do separate other things which often fails, but sometimes they succeed, and then you build upon that again. So it's and of course we have a lot of activities this year, but it's been a really joy, and I don't think anyone expected that level of success or that level of full cinema screening rooms as we have this year. So it's this is a trend, and it's I hope it goes for the rest of the panel.
I fear your positivity may not be quite as well reflected, but at the same time, there is an action in there. It's what you seem to be suggesting is, in a world that is changing, some things are constant, and one of the things that is constant is the joy of the event, the big screen, the experience is something that actually, in a way, is the counter to the idea that everyone's sitting on their sofa now, and it seems like you focused on that strongly.
Yeah, and of course it's much easier to draw an audience to a festival than it is to a normal distribution strategy. It's much. I mean, if the festival fails, then it's just over for everyone else, I think, also, because it is an event, and I hear distributor complaining about every screening has to be an event to lure the audience in there, and this is of course what we. Sorry, what was your original question?
You were actually answering it very well. I don't know why you stopped there, but what I was saying was that you're almost countering. So the world that we've all come out of, which has perhaps become more sedentary, with the sofa trap, as we were talking about at the beginning. That contrast has been really important to you.
And I think from 2007 to 2018, we were quite inspired, and we feel like as a festival, it's our duty to bring people together. And I read about all these. The level of lonely people is increasing, and loneliness is one of the biggest problems in the Western world. And I feel that is it also a lost opportunity to earn more money? You know, why should people sit at home being lonely when they should go to the cinema meeting friends? So I felt it was kind of always a civic and also a financial duty to try to explore that and bring people together, and that's what we've been focused on. That is the joy of, and I love having a party as a private person. So it's just I just do take that with you to the New Norwegian Festival. Do you want to make a huge big party, and everyone should feel welcome, and that each one should be treated as respect, and laziness is not an option. If you have a festival, you know, you do everything to make sure that the audience and everyone is taken care of, and we try to almost force them to come to the cinema, and that's why we had some strategies, and we tried to focus on being a fun, inclusive experience, and I'm not sure if that worked, but somehow it slowly increased the numbers, and as a height in 2019, and I'm quite sure, or we we are already surpassing that level now in 2022.
Okay, so the message I'm getting, I mean, loneliness, by the way, we try to deal with by having enormous panels here. You can't be lonely on a Europa Distribution panel. But the message I'm getting is, look, in this world where there are lots of people who are looking, I mean, they want that experience, you provide it the best you can, you build on your strengths, and that in some ways is a very useful start, because it contrasts, I think, with the feeling that everything is changing, everything needs to be small screen, and that's where the world is. But you're saying, no, if you provide and do what we do brilliantly, it will win back audiences. So that's a really useful start, and maybe you could hand over to Tobias there, because he's...
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you've got a Brittany mic on. I forgot. So your strategy is perhaps slightly different in as much as you've taken on some of the hybrid elements, which I mean, I'm sure you would agree with a lot of what you said. But
I agree definitely very much. We also think that the cinematic, the experience in cinemas are very important, of course, and that we want to embrace really for the future as well. But we have our philosophy for the last 2 years has much been to adjust to the new circumstances. And we were quite lucky in 2020 when we were one of the last festivals that actually could make a festival without being affected by the COVID. So then we have almost an entire year to to adjust to the new circumstances. And when the festival 2021 approached, we still hoped that we could make a hybrid event, both online and for cinematic screenings in theaters. But that became impossible because we reached the peak of the second or third wave, I don't remember. So apart from an event screening, the isolated cinema on a lonely island apart from Göteborg, we had a totally digital festival event. And that actually opened up the festival for a whole new audiences all around Sweden, because now the festival was at home at everyone in Sweden. So we gained audiences from all corners and small villages, and that a lot of people that never visited Göteborg Film Festival, suddenly they could take part of the whole program. And we were also quite lucky because we already had an existing streaming platform, Dark & Film, that we launched already in 2014. And because of that, we didn't need to go into all the technical stuff or also the communication with an online audience. We already had that. So we could just focus on how to make a digital festival and how to transfer the festival experience in an online environment, I think.
Yeah. And I'm getting two things here. One is that it also becomes an all-year brand. So that's become a big thing with festivals, is that an event that's just one-off, that happens at one time, doesn't necessarily have, and I think we should bring this in as well, you've got the audience and you've at one side and you've got the industry at the other, and you try to bring those two things together. But in both cases, for you, creating something which is existent all year round becomes an essential part of this. And I wonder, that's what we tried to do, and I wonder how that's gone.
Yeah, you could say that because we have our streaming platform and that is working all year round. And we also have, we make also avant premieres, of course, for the audience all around the year, and different events as well. But then that is a way for us to keep the communication with our audience throughout the whole year. And that is, I think, important. And also for our streaming platform, the program of Göteborg Film Festival is the base of the films that we will screen at the festival will later turn up, or a lot of them will turn up on our streaming platform. So that is also a way to market in films and to then let them prolong their life in the streaming sense.
But you also become, in terms of the industrial side of it, you also end up potentially in some ways becoming the beginning and the end of. So you are the exhibition as well as, which presumably can cause some issues with sales agents and distributors who are looking at festivals as perhaps a mechanism for driving their films.
Absolutely, and this is not for but I think every film needs different solutions or different ways, so you have to look at everything isolated. You can't just map them all in the same way. But then an interesting thing I think that we learned. So now we want to embrace the sofa watching as well from now on. We will keep making these hybrid events. But yet again, last festival in 2022, this year, the festival took place at the peak of the Omicron wave. So we haven't yet made a festival that's on COVID, a hybrid festival that's not affected by the COVID. So that will be interesting to see. But one thing that we have learned from our audience surveys is that the younger audience, they want to get back to the cinemas. But the older audience, they love our online festival. That is quite exciting, I think.
There's a challenge in there as well. I mean, the aging audience moving online is you end up transferring a problem of how do you get young people to watch European fairs. So and I guess that makes the role of the festival still really important. But I wanted just to finish with the festival side, just on the link between VOD and the event itself. We're trying to think about an ecosystem, aren't we, where you have this beautifully simple thing. A film is released in a festival, it gets that great attention that then translates through distributors to cinemas and then to platforms, and that it grows the word of mouth all the way around. But it's complicated, isn't it? And it's sometimes it works really well, but for other films it can be actually a dead end in some ways. I just wondered if you feel the world settling into a pattern that's easier to understand.
For us, I think the key issue for us has been how to present a film in our festival program. Because in our online program we premiere a film a certain date and a certain time, and then everyone has to adjust to that. And that also makes that our communication team can focus on one film at a time, that everyone will be watching it. So that is a huge part of our online concept, you could say, and that has been also what has been successful, you could say.
Okay, so what I'm getting from the festivals, because I'm going to come to the cinemas actually next, if that's okay, Ida, but is that you recognise that there are realities that are changing. People are simply watching more films online, but that isn't necessarily a negative. It can even be a positive in the counter-programming, but from your point of view, it's the base that potentially creates an all-round brand that could actually support the industry as a whole going forward.
Yes, of course we also are very keen to preserve the audience at cinemas, and that we will be working on.
Yeah, I think we'll take that to Ida, because that's a great link into you, because that sense of there's a responsibility there. Saying we've got to be good at what we do. Not everyone in exhibition is good at what they do. You need to have that feeling that the audience perhaps expects things that are different, and you need to find ways to provide it. Maybe you could just give us perspective from a cinema that's relatively new.
Yeah, I come from Vega Scene, which is an art cinema, a non-commercial art cinema, which I think is quite important in this context. We opened in 2018 and have been focusing very much on those kind of event screenings, something extra, the special screening with the artist talks, taking more of the Norwegian film club culture into a regular cinema space.
Tell me a bit more about the Norwegian film club culture.
I think Dag said something yesterday which I thought was very, very well put. He said that there is a distinction between a cinema culture and a film culture. We have had in Oslo a commercial monopoly for a while now. Before that, the cinema was owned by the municipality. So there have not been a full-scale art cinema taking care of the niches. Of course, you have the Cinematheque, but nobody focusing on the contemporary art house films within Norwegian distribution. So there has been a gap there also, I think, which, I think we have gone in kind of trying to fill.
Do you recognise Tonja's point? She was talking about dealing with the audience you have rather than the audience you want, but it's really about understanding and knowing that audience, isn't it, and building a culture, which I'm interested to know what that culture's like. Presumably it's one where the noise of Top Gun or whatever doesn't really have quite the same effect. Maybe the expectations of that audience are different. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your audience.
Top Gun is one of our worst titles, actually. It's not doing very well compared to other titles at Vega Scene. But it's a good film. Top Gun. But could you repeat your question again?
Yeah, so I'm saying you've got a different kind of audience. So the suggestion I think in the title is that the noise is really loud from all these commercial things. But for your audience, maybe they don't like the commercials.
Yeah, I think we've been since we didn't have an audience in 2018, we had to start from scratch in many ways, and we have been overwhelmed now, as you see on the platforms as well, and on the cinemas. It's been a lot of films, it's a lot of TV series, there's a lot of concerts. It's overwhelming. So curated programming cinema, I think, is the easy way out as well for the audience. They can trust that they can come there. They don't have to go through the program, seeing what finding what they want to see. You have some kind of help in that sense as well, which I think has been a major key part in finding that younger audience that wants something a bit more, because we see that our key audience is between the 25 to 35 category, and it's actually also starting to get spread out throughout the day. But then again, we're also during the matinees also getting the older, but we are focusing very much on that young audience and getting the film culture towards them. And that we do as well, because we do focus on films, art house films within Norwegian distribution, but we do also complement that by taking in films ourselves from festival and giving them limited releases at Vega Scene. And sometimes you can only see them there. Before we also actually started our own VOD platform during the pandemic. Complementing the distributors as well.
But again, anyone feel free to jump in if they've got points to make. But I think that in a way, this seems to be quite coherent. There is an expectation of those audiences. They're not passive in the same way. You've got to create relationships. And those relationships may be based on all kinds of things, but that expectation of a relationship is quite different than the days where you just, you had a kiosk and some popcorn and you were expected to go in. And those relationships are actually built online to an extent as well. That seems to be your plan.
Yeah, and I think as well the cinema... I don't know how it is. Of course, I've been to cinemas in other places in Europe, but it has been a tradition of making the infrastructure within the cinema kind of as an airport. You enter the cinema, you go to the tax-free where you can get your popcorn, your soda, and then you enter your destination, which is the unique cinema experience, and then you come out and the reality just hits you in the face because you come out through a back door. There's nothing. I still have nightmares about my first big cinema experience with Lilja Forever. I was 12 years old. Just driven in a bus back to school. I still get like goosebumps when I talk about it. So it was very important to create a cinema that's not just more than a collective experience within the screening room. So when you enter Vega Scene, we have 3 screening rooms, 2 smaller ones, 1 bigger. And when you come out, there's always you have to come back to where you came from, and there's always a place to sit down. No noisy popcorn, as you mentioned. Yeah. So I think the cinema we also have to adjust to making it more than just that experience, because I think and we have a way to go after the pandemic, where you took kind of away the cinema magic people usually come during the Cold War as well to forget reality, sit in the screening room, just be taken away. And then you came into the screening room during the pandemic, and you could see like, keep distance, sit still, wear a mask. You were just reminded about the reality, outside in society.
So you couldn't really switch off. So everything you're saying that is change. I mean so there are changing relationships that are there that I think are really important. Having people involved in and interested in the programming, I think, is important. There is an issue, though, that the amount of content that's now available. And I'm just wondering, as a cinema, I hear this a lot about an oversupply. That there was a backlog. COVID couldn't show lots of that stuff. Films were held back, and you now have a challenge that there is suddenly tons of potentially quite good content, but lots and lots of content. As a cinema, that must give you a headache in terms of programming.
Yeah, I think so. We just after 4 years had a possibility to sit down and think through our strategy, which was very, very nice, and tried to put everything in a streamlined form, like forming our concepts, trying to make them even clearer to the audience. But I think, of course, COVID has speeded things up, and the catalog has been getting bigger. But we saw it before COVID as well, that we could potentially have 3 films from one distributor targeting the same audience during 1 or 2 months, which it's of course they usually they deserve the space at the cinema, but it's hard to work with. It's a kind of a cannibalization of the same genre, which it's been challenging because you want to dedicate. I know that you need time, you need focus to get one film out to the audience at the same time, or else it gets overwhelming. It's like on the platforms, and that can be challenging. There is.
Would get rid of piracy, but actually you're saying it actually creates a piracy window, which seems to be the experience in Portugal. Moving away from piracy towards the other point, which is about how we get young people in. You've got them coming out of your ears. They're everywhere.
Not really, but there is a change. I think the target group that's from 12 to 18. The popcorn aspect is actually quite important. We do not have popcorn. We know that our venue is placed just side by side with a videregående, a school for youth, a high school, but they choose to see a lot of the youth films in the commercial cinemas because of the popcorn. But we have started after school program that's every Tuesday for kids between the age of 9 and 15, which is not your average cultural users. They come to us to hang out, have something to eat, and then they get the cinema or theater experience as well. And we show them classics like E.T., Back to the Future, and it blows them away. So it's there are ways to lure them in, but we can see that it is through the schools. It's an organized way of getting them there, and you have to feed them. It needs to be food. It needs to be something extra. It's not the cinema experience as well, and not to say that the pirate aspect is not important, but I'm not really sure of how many of the people watching the pirate copies would actually attend the cinema. So I don't know if I don't know how big
that's an interesting discussion that I think varies from country to country as well. I mean, there is evidence in some places that people who pirate films go to the cinema more, but then that's not. I'm more interested actually in the point you were making about getting young people in, which I think is about the change. So the food is one aspect, but actually listening as well. But there's a kind of gateway film approach. I do sometimes think that the way we do getting young people interested in European film is to sit them down in a seat and say, "Shut up till you enjoy it."
Yeah.
And it feels like you're trying to build a kind of
and some
gateway,
leave and they'll come back, and it's just an open meeting place.
And again, we're talking about knowledge of knowing your audience is critical here. We had another question, I think, at the. Oh.
Yeah, hello. Let's see which hat I'll have. Dad, I'll do the dad hat. So I have 3 kids, 15, 16 and 20. And I see that cinemas like Vega is interesting, because the problem with like the general cinema picture in Oslo right now is that you don't have a profile. I mean, you don't go to this cinema to see action and this to see. They kind of all show the same thing. And then it's really easy to just stay home, because it sort of reflects what's on Netflix and the other places. So there's kind of, cinema has, through this kind of big rationalization, kind of made itself less relevant for the kids. And they're all very like engaged and interested in cinema and brand oriented. But when one cinema does the same, and it doesn't give them identity to go to see something anywhere. And this reflects a lot of what the thoughts from the panel. So I was like, as a dad, that was interesting.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think it is useful that we brought this on to the age demographic and how we get people in. But the point you're making, which I think that everyone's been making really, is there needs to be a degree of confidence in cinema as a medium. It feels like during the pandemic and after the pandemic, there's been a lot of kind of pessimism, like there's not some great asset in cinemas that could be exploited. And I think what you're saying is, if you make it a place where kids, younger people feel welcome, and there is a program, then maybe there's something there.
I think there's a lot to programming of specific areas. I mean, obviously you have the big cinemas that do the commercials, but when all the cinemas also do Top Gun, then it's like...
Oh, okay, so let me repeat that so we make sure we've captured that point, which is if everyone's doing the same thing, which is the danger for art house cinema and maybe for festivals, if you start over-programming, and I guess this is for distributors as well, if you start over-programming the easy stuff, you create a monoculture, and a monoculture does eventually undermines you, because, as you said, the multiplexes probably show Top Gun on a bigger screen with more popcorn, maybe even better popcorn.
I think that we must remember that most cities only have one cinema, so it's not like they have the luxury of programming different. The typical cinema in Norway is a cultural house, which is the library and has the cinema and has the theatre school, the after school, everything is in the same place. So that's more typical. And I think that everyone is afraid of how to bring the young kids in with their own money. I mean, it's one thing, school screenings is fine, but to have the kind of extra activity supported by something is also not so difficult, but it's how to make them pay for content that you are really struggling for. And I think that we have, and it's specific for the Nordic countries, where you have the grey gold, that we see that the middle-aged and older people are attending cinema, and before they didn't have content. Now they have a lot of content to choose from, and I think that what you call eventualization?
It's called eventization.
Eventization. I think there's no escaping that, and I think that you have to find a new type of event, because, as you say, who wants to see a debate with a politician about film? You need to find something new all the time. We were the first brought in afternoon tea after a screening here in Haugesund. Suddenly there's afternoon teas all the places in Haugesund. So having it during the festival is not special anymore. So you need to evolve, and it's just getting harder, I think.
Yeah.
And I think there's no turning back to just releasing a film and you have press some key. You have to.
I want to bring the distributors in here. Instead of politics, if it's the Prime Minister of Finland, I'm there. I think we can definitely go and watch that in a nightclub somewhere. This is your issue as well, because you are doing the temptation is always to go towards the easy option, the things that you know are going to work. But both of you are really putting out an idea that this is about risk taking. This is about diversity. This is about choosing films and finding ways for them to reach audiences. And if they're those young audiences, you find the influencers for young audiences. It feels to me like the core point you're making is homogeneity is the kind of death of well, it is the opposite of cultural diversity.
But it's also what makes our job exciting. I mean, each film is a new story and is a new adventure, and you have to partner with different type of institutions, and And also on young audience, I just wanted to add something.
Yeah, please do.
So we had this private partner with Bigger Than Us, the environmental documentary, that it was actually its #1 French electronic tools company, so it really has nothing to do. It was kind of a greenwashing operation, to be honest.
Is that one of the things you do at the special operation?
I mean, we take the money where it is. So if it's for the good cause of bringing back young audience to theater, we do that. So they offered to pay for 100,000 admissions for the young audience to screen the film in theaters, in cinemas. So we had basically 100,000 tickets to give out for young people only. And it was incredibly hard, even though it was free, to make young people come to the cinemas. And in the end, what really worked out was our work with teachers. Because when you have a film that has a content that is suitable to build on in classes, to work on with the kids in class, it's really good for the teachers, and they are really dynamic with it. And in the end, I think we had something like 10,000 random young people coming to see the film for free, and 90,000 through teachers and classes, and sometimes entire high schools, thousands of kids from the same school coming to
Yeah,
the
you said get it on the curriculum is a good thing, but that makes sense. Again, influencers aren't necessarily who you expect them to be, and teachers and schools and the things that you might learn seems to me like a very logical way to get people in.
So you have to find the suitable gates, really, to the audience.
I think getting the forced audience is not a difficult thing to getting into the cinemas. That's not difficult. That's just if someone else pays your ticket, it's easy to do that. It's getting them to come from their own free will that we're struggling with. And we tried one year to lure the students in the free beer. That didn't work, and I think if that doesn't work, nothing works. So we kind of gave up on those, and then they go through the university, which pays for their tickets. So I think if you have a really good how to lure the audience in, but maybe they come back when they are 20. We don't know yet. It's interesting to see what
free beer for 10-year-olds is a dangerous thing. We'll take one here, and one here, and then that's probably what we'll have time for. So, I think I might. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Ole Bjørn from Øst for Parties in Denmark, and I have quite a case, because in Denmark when we compare the audience coming back this year with 2019, which was a very good year, it seems that the level now has been increasing from 40% start of year until 70-75%. But we are an exception, because since Easter we have been on 100%, sometimes even more, but more or less at 100%. And it goes for commercial cinemas and also for our colleagues, the other art cinemas in Denmark. And that's strange, we think, because we don't know what we are doing.
Tell us.
But we have, of course, been thinking about it, and I think we are the only art cinema in Aarhus, so we screen every art house film which is coming to Denmark, and we have a department of the Cinematheque screening each Tuesday 2 films, and we do a lot of the usual stuff, pre-screenings and small festivals of any kind. So, and we have a nice cinema, a nice cafe, many people employed, so people can find somebody to talk to, and they are coming out from the cinema into the cafe, all that. But that was the same in 19. So the difference from us to the other cinemas, I think, maybe it's not true, but I guess is that we have a lot of films which you can only see in the cinema, and all the special arrangements you can also only go to in the cinema. You cannot stay home. Then you would have the ability, and there are no piracy on art house films, almost. And also we don't have young audience from 20 and up, but we have a big part from 50 and up, and they have also returned, because I think they also want to see the good stuff. And then when we select our weekly program, we can choose between 10, 12 films, and we normally have 3 to 4 premieres each week. And we select the most original films, so we don't play so many films that you can see in the other cinemas. So, well, the conclusion is to be as special as you can be and still make money. Because we want to stay in business, and our audience want us to stay there. But it has been a big pleasure to see since Easter, people are coming back and showing big joy and saying, we are very happy you are opening again. And yeah, but that's only for us, but you can think about it.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's all good in Denmark. Everyone knows that. Tobias, that it is an interesting point that's been made, because you were talking about a year-round kind of view where VOD and the physical screens can actually complement each other. And what we're hearing there is perhaps that can have the opposite effect, or maybe be having the opposite effect, that actually exclusivity is a big deal.
But we have somewhat actually the same experience, because we started with avant premieres in March, and they have all been sold out in the cinemas. So we are seeing that the audience is getting back to the cinemas, even though we still have an online option as well. And now we are also having a campaign on our streaming platform that all the subscribers, they could get a ticket to the cinema for free to certain launches, premiere screenings. And we have about collaboration with 20 different cinemas, art house cinemas in Sweden. So they could go there to experience a film for certain dates or the premiere screening. So that is also a way of getting them back to the cinemas, of course, but also to stay, to continue to watch films. Because in final end, I think the main thing is to provide the people or the audience to see great European films.
Yeah.
That's the main thing.
Simple trick. Yeah.
I think after COVID, I don't want to be pessimistic, but we will be facing some other challenges. I think the economic crisis will reduce the budget that is available for families to spend on entertainment. So I just wanted to check, how do you see yourselves tackling those challenges? Do you see solutions in partnerships or other initiatives?
Okay, who wants to start on that? Because I would like to just to take that out even more widely. There was a history of, in recessions, cinema did quite well. And you would hope that maybe the same thing would happen again, but just maybe your evidence or your thinking could actually coincide with that thought. Anastasia, you're not saying anything for a while?
No, actually that's a big problem, because I must admit that we also have we work thanks in this day thanks to subsidies, and we select also movies thinking of the subsidy that each country can give us. So without those that help, I really think is going to be tough. But I'm not prepared to think of this terrible situation. I mean, we are now I'm focused on the next 4 months because for us the period from the beginning of this year till now is an experiment. In summer, in Italy especially, all the cinemas are closed. So we really try. Now we are focused on September, December to understand what's happening.
Because obviously you're going to have to deal with this in terms of. Is that something that's factored into your policy as well? That idea of audiences and money.
Yeah, I think we also have the one problem at a time attitude, and I think also that this fall will give us a lot of experience in what the audience will do. As you said, we have the historical experience that during wartime and during times of crisis, people want to go into the cinema to escape from reality, or maybe also learn more about reality. So we have a number of reasons that people could go more to the cinemas in difficult times. And cinema is relatively cheap compared to the opera, but very expensive compared to the online offer. So we don't know yet what's going to happen. But I think that it's really fascinating to hear how different audiences are between countries and between music genres and dance genres and between cities in one country. I mean, in one city you could have afternoon tea. It would never work in another city. So you need really people that know their audience really well, and you keep close to their audience. And for us, it's really it gives me belief in our support system that we give money to those people that really spend it on doing special operations or normal operations toward the audience and try to really reach out, because that is something that only the distributors and the theaters can do.
Definitely. So, well, that's a very big part of this. Of the quick summing up I'll do in a moment. But Tony, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm quite optimistic because cinemas are known to change rapidly. I mean, they change the program weekly. They change the program immediately if it doesn't work. So if the audience goes down, and so far the cinema numbers has been quite good. You know, it's more a problem for the distributors trying to get the content. And if the cinema had the same attitude as the Norwegian Film Festival, we don't care which films they see as long as they see it in the cinema, then it's bad. But hopefully, I think we need to focus on the cinema because that's the only thing which actually works, both revenue-wise and marketing-wise. But I think that and so far the people will be willing to pay what it cost, so they have followed the race in the cinema. But if that stops, if the cinemas see that they have to lower their ticket prices, they will do that, because otherwise there's no option. So I'm quite optimistic. I feel certain that the cinema will adapt to the new world we are coming to. And let's hope it's not as bleak as it looks at the moment, but I mean the cinema will prevail anyhow. So
You've got one sentence, because I've got to finish off. So.
okay, then it's okay.
I was looking forward to that sentence. You can talk to Ida afterwards and she will tell you what brilliant insight she was about to give you. But look, just in summing this thing up here, I think there's some clarity here, which is you have to, you've got to focus on the things that you do well. And it's not necessarily just about optimism. The realism, the new realism we have, is that we need to understand the way that audiences think. We need to understand the audiences as separate communities, not as some homogenous group of people who all think the same, whether they're in Norway or in Masterpiece France or anywhere else. You've got to think about them in different ways. And the only way you can do that, I think, is to see each film. I would like if we could find something better than an event, but it's clear from the distributors that what you're talking about is each film has its own dynamic and it has its own potential audience, and understanding how those things work and understanding how to build those communities around a film or indeed around a festival is what the skill that we're all going to need in the changing environment that we now have. And if we can create the, as Ida pointed out earlier on, and Tonya as well, you create the right environment in which to watch those films. You build on the strengths of the physical place, then you actually have the basis for not just a success within cinemas, but actually an ecosystem that works, an ecosystem where the physical is one thing, and it drives the VOD, and potentially even in a circular fashion where what goes on online and what goes offline are interdependent, and they work in ways that can be really, really strong. So the optimism that comes out is all these challenges are going to come, and they're all going to come in different ways, and it's not going to get any easier. But if you see each film as a separate thing, and you allow, and maybe ensure that distribution / publishing is actually supported properly to do the kind of things that it's now doing, there are reasons to believe that we can get through whatever crisis is coming. Because at the end of it, there's still the two things. There is European diversity of content, and there are human beings that you're trying to interact with. And if we can bring those two together, then I think we're getting somewhere until Krakatoa goes off in next year, somewhere around November. And then it's every person for themselves, and I'm already working out who to eat when that happens. So thanks to the panel. And make sure you stay for the Jave, EAV, whatever way you want to pronounce it, that's coming afterwards. Thanks everyone.